Servus, Männer, it's Red Pill Germany again. I just came back from the voting booth. I voted for the AfD in the European election, of course, but in Germany today is not only the European election, no, there is more going on, and I want to take the opportunity to tell you a little bit about the Hanseatic City of Bremen, because this is where there is a state election going on this Sunday, and also there are community elections, so elections for the mayor in towns, cities and villages in Eastern Germany. But here I want to focus on the state elections in Bremen. So Bremen is the smallest state in the Federal Republic of Germany. It is located on the Weser River in northern Germany, and it is southwest of Hamburg. It has a proud history as one of the prominent members of the Hanseatic League, and this is why the name of the federal state is still Free Hanseatic City of Bremen, but nobody says that, we just say Bremen. Now this state consists technically of two cities, that is Bremen and to the north, Bremerhaven. So Bremen is technically just connected to the ocean via the Weser River, but Bremerhaven is actually located at the coast of the Northern Sea. If you are into European history, you should really check out the history of the Hanseatic League. It basically spanned between the Netherlands and the Baltic Sea, which we call Eastern Sea or Ostsee, and Lübeck, and also Danzig, which is now in Poland actually, very important cities in the Hanseatic League. So a very proud tradition, an old history really. It is also well known for the fairy tale or fable of the brothers Grimm, called the Town Musicians of Bremen. Maybe you have heard of this fairy tale before. But now let's focus a little bit on the present. Despite its proud and old history, the present of Bremen as a federal state looks rather bleak and grim in my opinion. In the German Federation, different states are basically in competition with each other. Our system works in a way that different systems are in competition, and when one state is successful with something, the others can or cannot, maybe, if they are stubborn, adopt this successful method. And if something doesn't work in reality, then other states can maybe distance themselves from this approach. That is the idea of competition within Germany. And I said it many times before, and I repeat it again, the fields and domains of politics where the states have the most impact, where they have a chance to really set themselves apart, is education and security or police. So that means we have fundamentally different school systems in Germany. The federal government has to really take itself back a little bit and let the federal states really handle this field. So the state has a lot of direct influence on the school system. So the Bavarian school system, for example, is way different than the one in Bremen. And here there are, of course, rankings every now and then. And Bremen traditionally scores very, very low in those rankings where we compare different federal states and the performance of the students there. And now this year I read that even the mainstream media admits now that the influx of foreign students or children born to foreign parents are partly responsible for this substandard performance of students in Bremen. And of course it becomes a vicious circle. If the average grades need to be held constant and the IQ level and the performance level of the students is falling, then you have to lower the standards year by year. And with lower standards, it is absolutely impossible also to maintain a performance level, and so one thing begets the other, and it is a downward spiral of academic excellence. Actually, I think in the case of Bremen, you cannot really talk about excellence anymore. It is just really substandard what's going on there. And the other field is, of course, crime and police. So Bremen is one of the most criminal cities in Germany, one of the most dangerous cities, and everybody knows that the official truth is not even the whole truth, because I proved that and I showed that to you in a previous video. It is now a systemic thing in Germany that the measurement process of the crime statistics are inherently false. That means no one really tweaks the numbers later in the statistics, but the way that crime is measured is inherently underestimating the real crime numbers, because the police chiefs, of course, have bosses, and those bosses are the politicians in the major parties. And the police chiefs, they receive the orders from the politicians, and they pass the orders along to the policemen and women now on the ground. And that means that for certain offenses, when certain people come to report crimes, they are just sent away, no case file is opened, and so the actual crime number is an underreporting, an absolute drastic underreporting of the true crime statistics. But nevertheless, Bremen, even with this criminal underreporting, takes a prominent leading position here, and infamous leading position in Germany. So it is Middle Eastern families that now dominate the red light districts and truck trafficking also. It is an open secret that judges and the police, they are intimidated by them and they don't really dare to do anything against them anymore. So the true power, the true authority in Bremen is no longer with the German state. The real power there is held by immigrant families who have archaic clan structures, and these foreign clans are really the actual authority, the actual power in the city of Bremen. The German state has no longer any real authority there. But this is the thing with many liberal left-wing places. They basically broadcast to the whole world, look, we're not going to do anything about crime. We're just leaving you alone as long as you belong to a certain ethnic group or a certain religion. And then, well, nobody has to be really surprised that these people then preferentially come and aggregate in these cities and in these states. So this is a homemade problem of all too liberal or left-winged or fake tolerant cities and states. We can see that in California, I guess, also. Very good example, I guess. Now, since the existence of the Federal Republic of Germany, Bremen was always ruled in changing coalitions, but always ruled by the Social Democratic Party of Germany, by the SPD. And this year, for the first time, I guess, there is a real danger that the SPD could lose the state of Bremen. Now, the candidates of the two largest parties, the CDU and the SPD, they share the first name. They're both called Carsten, but the media says that this is the only thing that they really have in common. Now, the SPD guy, Carsten Seeling, he worked at least for 1 year in the private sector, but then he was a student and he is a career politician. He also has been a member of the Bundestag. His opponent from the CDU, however, is an entrepreneur in the IT sector, so he has a lot of private business experience, and he says also about himself that he is not really a politician. And this is maybe a little bit the tactic that also Donald Trump used by saying, I'm not a politician, I'm not like these guys in Washington. So he tries to do the same, at least I think. So when people are really fed up with politicians, we call it Politikverdrossenheit, being fed up with politicians, then a candidate who says or who comes from a different sphere of life, from the business world, for example, they can actually use that to their advantage. And this is also a point I want to stress. So even though the CDU and the SPD are in all essential points basically agreeing, there are still some differences. For example, the CDU is much more business friendly, more industry friendly. They still know how our wealth is created in Germany, and they're not just teachers or public officers. But of course, since 2015, I cannot ever vote for them again unless they fundamentally change. Now, of course, for me at least, the AfD is the only real alternative here. So right now, he is still ruling, the Carsten Seeling that is, he's still ruling together with the Green Party, but according to polls, the CDU might very easily become the most prominent party in Bremen. And of course, the AfD doesn't have a lot of following in these Western German urban states or these cities. No chance. Yeah, they are absolute left-winged people there. The majority is absolutely liberal and left-winged. So it doesn't come as a surprise then that an AfD member was violently attacked there by 3 Antifa guys who approached him from behind in a dark, narrow alleyway, actually. And I wouldn't be surprised also if the SPD and the Green Party didn't order that hit. Antifa admitted to that, but the police didn't really follow up on that, or there are no convictions, even though Antifa on some internet forums boasted about this deed, and there is even video footage about that. So instead of trying to find the perpetrators here who attacked Frank Margitz, they actually just mocked him and said that, yeah, this is what happens to you if you are a member of the AfD in Bremen. This is what is happening to you then. So instead of investigating, they just threatened him even more. So I guess yesterday there were new riots in Bremen, and this is not even federal national news anymore. This is just, it's normal in Bremen. Yeah, there was another riot. That's normal. But why is that also important? I mean, for me in Bavaria, why should that be important? Well, we do not only have the Bundestag, which is our federal parliament, we also have the Bundesrat, and this body is not elected directly by the people, but it is the representation of the states on the federal level, and that is filled with a certain number of seats per state. So the larger ones have 6 seats, like Bavaria or North Rhine-Westphalia, and the smaller ones, like Bremen, they have 3 seats. And depending on who is the ruling coalition in the federal states, these seats will be filled with those parties. And they are also important for federal legislation. Yeah, they have a veto right, or they have to also ratify those bills, those laws that are proposed. And also for the broader picture now, I told you that the 2 major parties, CDU and SPD, are losing more and more votes. They have the coalition in the federal government right now. Angela Merkel's government is, of course, the SPD and the CDU, and they are becoming more and more unpopular. The Green Party is rising, the AfD stays rather constant, but there is a lot of pressure on the leadership of those 2 big parties. So if the SPD would actually lose Bremen or lose a lot of votes there, this puts Andrea Nahles under a lot of pressure. There are already many people in the party who want her gone, who even want the SPD to get out of the coalition on the federal level. It could even go as far as new elections in Germany. And also, depending on the results for the European election, that is not really relevant directly for Germany. But again, this erosion of the voter base of these 2 large parties puts a lot of pressure on them. And it could even mean that Kramp-Karrenbauer, AKK, will have to become chancellor. Earlier, the plan was that she took over as a chairman of the CDU party from Angela Merkel, but that Merkel stays chancellor until her term is over. But maybe we will even have new elections. I mean, people in the media are already speculating about this. There is a possibility. So I am waiting right now not only for the results of the European election, but also of the state election in Bremen. And I want to see what that means for the leadership of those large parties. If it will break apart the coalition in Berlin, I don't really see it as a really highly probable scenario, but it is at least possible. So that is what is going on in Germany besides the European election right now politically. And I hope you enjoyed this one. I hope this was some useful information for you maybe. And catch you guys again later if you want to. Servus, Kameraden.